Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
WNBA, CBA heating up proposal from the league that we know about. As you can see here, salaries are not going to hit or exceed $1 million, but it is a significant increase from what it's been in the past. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out, of course, to the 19. And as we always do at the beginning of a new season, we have hope. We haven't seen anything to confirm that hope in a long time, but we have hope. New hat, new season. Let's roll Sixers. So we all know it's been a lot of talk about the new CBA. It's expiring in what, 2.5 weeks, end of the month of October. As you can see here, according to Annie Constable, according to multiple sources with direct knowledge of negotiations, the WNBA's latest proposal does not include a supermax salary at or exceeding 1 million in the first year of the deal. However, it is a significant increase. Supermax closer to 850,000, a minimum hovering around 300,000 in the first year of the proposal, and I believe that goes up, and that is obviously significant from I believe the vet minimum right now is around 78,000, so it's a huge increase for the players. Of course, the biggest sticking point that we've heard over and over again from the players is revenue share and what that's going to mean for the league, and of course, making it a lot messier is a new media rights deal kicking in next year, which takes the media annual revenues, I believe, from about 60 million to 200 million or so, maybe a little more, because there was some wiggle room after that. What, 11-year, $2.2 million deal. There was some wiggle room in terms of other rights that the league could still sell, and I believe they sold one recently, so that 200 million could be 220, 240, something like that. But it's a significant increase from the what the league was making. Of course, the league has also talked about how much they've been losing money every single year, so we don't know what that's going to be. I think the problem is now, my understanding is the league, the players, I should say, have a right to see these numbers. They can see these numbers even though they're saying that they do not know. So obviously that gets it into the he said, she said, and we don't know what has actually been shown behind the scenes and so forth. But as you know, the league's current supermax is 249. The minimum would go significantly over that to 300,000. Now, for those of you that don't know, I don't know if it talks about it in here or not. Well, one thing I do want to talk about is this, but first, the CBA last time, which I believe was 2019, and then of course you got into the whole beer bug thing, and people weren't attending games, and that was an absolute nightmare. But what that did have, and that's where we're getting into the sticking point, it actually did have revenue share for the first time for the players. The thing was, you needed to hit certain benchmarks in order to have the percentage for the players to kick in. This is like to simplify this as much as possible. And obviously there's more involved, but it's basically like, say you're a salesperson, right? And you have a commission that's a certain amount. And then when you do X number of sales, you're going to hit another commission level, and an X number of sales, you're going to hit another commission level that's going to go up. And maybe you don't even get a commission, you just get paid hourly or salary, whatever, for, the first $1 million in sales that you do. Okay. And then everything above a million, you now get 5% of that or 10% of that or whatever. That's only above a million, not of the whole thing. So there's obviously a whole bunch of different ways that you can structure how the revenue share is going to work. When you're a massive success like the NBA, you're going to make it where I think it's just, it's 50-50 for the players and for the league as well. So, but with the WNBA, it's going to be a lot different than that. They're not going to be able to just say, hey, here's 50-50. First of all, 50-50, just so everyone's clear, would be 21% for the players in the WNBA, because the WNBA actually only owns 42% of the league. The NBA owns 42% of the league, and outside investors now own 16% of the league. So a 50-50 revenue share is actually 21% of overall revenue. And the league cannot, I don't think the league can do something like that initially, say, here, it's 50-50 from, right away. Whatever the revenue is, we're going to give you 50 of what we get because I don't think they can operate at a profit with that. And that is just me guessing based on what I've seen. I do believe, right? Please understand, I do believe players should get a percent of the revenue going forward. I don't have all of the exact numbers to say, oh, this is the percentage they should get. This is what it's fair. I do think, and obviously the league's going to do what they think is best for them, and the players are going to do what they think is best for them, or they're going to try. But I do think from what I've seen that the players are a little out of pocket, shall we say, a little maybe, I don't want to say delusional because that's not fair, but I think they're being a little too hardline in what they expect. It's like I and they're all saying this about pay us what we deserve. Sophie Cunningham said there's a potential lockout. I promise you we aren't going to play until they give us what we deserve. And the problem is I think the players, what they think they deserve is too much. And that's where we're going to have the sticking point, and that's why we have a potential lockout. Now, I do think they do deserve a percent of revenue, and I do think it should be leveled off like that, like a certain percentage. If revenue, these numbers have nothing to do with the WNBA. I'm just trying to give flat numbers. Like, let's just say revenue's 100 million, right? They deserve, say, that's when revenue share kicks in and they get 5%. Now that 5% is of the 42, okay? So it's more than that. But and then maybe at 140 million, it's 10% or something like that. So when revenue hits a certain amount, they get that 50-50 split with the WNBA, which is actually 20 will be 21%. Unfortunately, the players I get are going to be leery of that because 2019, what they agreed to, and they never hit any of those benchmarks. Now, part of that, unfortunately, again, was the timing with the beer bug made it almost impossible to hit those. So we don't really know how fair that was. Were those numbers way too high that the players were never going to be able to meet them for revenue share to kick in? Or was it unfortunately circumstantial the last few years and now you're seeing attendance and ratings and all that sort of bounce back from that time, bouncing back. I think 24 kind of with attendance at least. I'm not sure about TV ratings, but at least with attendance kind of got back to what it had been 20 years ago, believe it or not, and significantly higher than the past few years. And this is again why I say it's such a PR campaign because so many people like to talk about the growth the last few years. Now, set aside the Caitlin Clark thing, they would talk about how the WNBA, a lot of times they were doing this to diminish Caitlin Clark, but of course they're also doing it for the CBA. But there wasn't actually growth. It was again the whole beer bug thing and this and that. It was Caitlin Clark coming in was now it was growing past that, of course, but it was coming back from that huge dip that it had had back in around 2019. Okay, so that wasn't real growth. It was going back to levels that we had seen 20 years ago. So how can you say it's growth? It's just that we had a big dip and it's bouncing back. There's a big difference. So it's going to be interesting going forward. Now, last thing I want to add, I don't want to get this too long, but because I know it can get boring talking about these numbers, but I do think it's interesting to see what happens because obviously it changes so much with where the league is at right now and Caitlin Clark and all of that. That to have a CBA, to not have a CBA is going to be very, very interesting. You got Unrivaled, you got the new overseas league, and all of this stuff. And what a lot of people are talking about, like I think it mentions here, it was with the Aces winning, it was talked about how they were purchased for 2 million back in 2021 and now valued at 310 million. And the New York Liberty was purchased for between 10 million and 14 million, now valued at 450. And then of course you've got what the expansion teams were paying for their fee to get into the league. Now that is real money. Okay. That is real money, to be fair. But valuations like this, it's paper. Okay. And what I mean by that is what the players can get have to be based on actual money coming into the league, right? The media rights deal, merchandise revenue, and that ticket sales and that sort of thing. It can't be based on paper valuations of a franchise being bought and sold. It's like your home, right? Maybe you bought it for 200,000, it's now valued at 300,000, but if you don't, it's not worth 300,000 until you sell it for 300,000. Maybe you don't sell it for another 5 years and you just hit the market wrong and things crash and you can only sell it for 220, right? Or, like a lot of people did at times when housing prices were going up, 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 and people are taking out home equity loans based on the available money in the value of their home because they paid 200,000. Now it's valued at 400,000. And so they're taking out home equity loans. And then the market crashes and they can't even sell it for 200,000. They owe all that money back because it was paper, man. It was paper. So I don't think the valuation of the franchise should have a lot to do with what this is going forward. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below. Biggest question I have, and I know I've asked it before, is what do you think the chances of there being a 2026 season? Or to be fair, because it's been done in football and baseball where they've had shortened seasons because of strikes. Not just the whole thing's gone, but they've shortened them. So let me know if you think that's a possibility as well. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.